goodness. Big move Monday. Look out. A way to end the tournament.
So what's happening, people? Welcome back to the Quad Pod, sponsored by Poseidon Strength and Adidas Wrestling. Today we are on episode number 16, and we appreciate you guys joining myself, Robbie, Austin, and Claunch, the professor. We got kind of a shorter episode today as we're going to dig into all things RAF, and it's really the brunt of it, right? There was so much that happened at RAF, a lot to take in, that we figured, why should we discuss anything else? But before we get into any of that, make sure you guys like, share, subscribe, comment below to be part of the conversation. Let us know what you guys thought about RAF. I know a lot of people are probably already talking about it, but if there was something you liked, something you disliked, something you would change or do differently, which is probably what we might dig into as well, make sure that you are commenting to be part of the conversation. But really, like I said, happy to be back with these guys. I know we're a day late. We decided to take the Monday off for Labor Day and record on a Tuesday. So Wednesday morning is when you guys are listening to this, or when, at least after Wednesdays when you're listening to this. You're not getting your normal Tuesday show. So we apologize for the day late, but we decided to take the day. Who cares? But let's do our weigh in. Let's jump in. And for my weigh in, I'm actually going to give a shout out to Nate Angle. I had a chance to interview him last week, and if you have not listened to that or watched that, go back and watch that, and truly listen to like what the man is talking about during that interview, because you realize, like, as fans, you get mad about coaches recruiting or not recruiting a guy, or a guy leaving, or all these different things that are, in the grand scheme of things, okay. They're not going to crush anything. But losing a man's family, not to say that he was going to do that, but losing a family, like, your family has to come first at some point. And you guys aren't privy to all the things that Nate has done throughout his career, but as a friend of his, I am, right? I know that, as he says during that interview, he just hated to say no to a lot of opportunity, because he felt like he was doing what was right for his family and to provide for them and do all the things that he needed to do so that his family could have the things that they wanted and that he wanted to give them. And ultimately it came down to, at some point, you have to just choose them. It can't be about the opportunity. And he found the right opportunity to do the things that he wanted to do and put his family first. So I highly recommend listening to the conversation between myself and Nate. Listen to what he's saying about choosing his family and being there for his wife and his 3 boys, because it's honestly, it's pretty eye-opening, because you forget in the grand scheme of things that it is about, I guess it's not about the recruits and all this and all that, because so much sacrifice is happening from these coaches for kids that aren't even theirs, and they're bringing them in and making them family, which is like the sad part about like this NIL era, because it's a lost art of relationship building that a lot of people are starting to forget about. So certainly go listen to that. Shout out to my man Nate Angle for being pretty open and transparent about where his head was at and why he chose the things that he chose to, and why he moved on to WCAP and left and went to Colorado. And with that, I turn it over to Robbie to weigh in.
I thought it was a great interview. Nate is genuinely one of the better people in the sport, and it's always been fun watching his journey and seeing how impactful he is as a coach. So I'm glad to see him get an opportunity with WCAP to do something a little bit different and kind of fit a role that he really wants to be in. So I think it's going to be a good fit for him, and I'm excited to watch him. So well done on that one. Best of luck, Nate. My shout out this week is going to go actually to one of my students. So I'm a high school teacher, and today we were prepping for our first biology test, and kids finished up a study guide. And then one of my kids in class who wrestles, I was walking around the room and I saw him watching Vince Robinson versus Troy Spratley in the NCAA semifinals. I was like, what you doing there, man? Watching my boy Vinny there. He's like, no, not. I was like, no, that's fine. We're gonna chat about this. So kind of filled him in a little behind the scenes, and that was a really cool match, because I was right behind Trent Hidley and the rest of the team as they were celebrating that, and kind of getting to show him that aspect was really cool. But I sent Pat a message afterwards. I was like, look, there's hope for the youth these days. They are they're watching wrestling in class. So I think they're making good choices.
That's pretty awesome. Yeah. Especially when you can share that with like a kid that is watching from 30,000 foot, right? He's got 30,000 foot view and you're like, here's some things that you don't know about this, which is really, really awesome. Cool. Austin, on to you.
I'll give a quick weigh in to our senior world team. Excuse me. The men's freestyle seed just came out for the world championships. And we did talk about, previous shows, how much the youth and inexperience we have on this team. And it kind of goes to show in the rankings or in the seeds here. Spencer Lee is our only number 1 ranked wrestler right now, which is no surprise coming off Olympic silver last year. And we going down the list here, we do have Valencia seeded 4th right now at 86, Hidley number 8 at 92, and Snyder number 3 at 97. The rest of those guys are going to be unseeded, but you gotta like their odds, with how well they've been wrestling right now. So it's short and sweet weigh-in for me, but it's fun to see the seeds come out and just see kind of where our guys are at, and gonna have to make names for ourselves at a lot of these weights here this year.
Yeah, it could be tough sledding for a lot of the guys that are younger and unproven on the senior level, and I'm here for it. We'll certainly do a deeper dive and look into not just the seeds, but some of their draws and how they stack up, and some of the bigger opponents that they'll potentially run into when Worlds comes around. Was that coming up? We're like a week and a half out.
2 weeks. Yeah, 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So
We are the bad draw this time, so that's always good.
yeah, you
Trent
love
Hidley,
when
world
fans
champ.
jump
Book
in
it.
on that. Yeah,
Dude,
we're the bad draw.
I was honestly pumped to see that. Like, these guys have no idea what the hell they're going to be up against with Jack's Forest. They're going to see this child across the mat, and then he's going to be an absolute, like, flamethrower wrestler from them. Like, it's going to suck for those old Iranians.
Can't wait.
Very true. Claunch, take it away. Bring the professor all the way back around.
Yeah, so I'm going to comment on something because I felt like I had to as soon as the professor piece was thrown in again. So I will comment on that. But my shout outs, I have a couple quick ones. One, whoever invented Gable Game, thank you. Because I play that shit every day. And I have one tab open that's Gable Game that I refresh every day. And then I also have another tab that's open that's like the brackets from last year. Because once I get through like 5, like I'm using 6, 7, and 8, and I'm looking through like, what am I missing? Who did I forget? It's very hard without that. Anyway, super fun game. Really appreciate that. I'm going to shout out my son Cortland real quick. We're going to be wrestling in the Grappler Fall Classic coming up in Sandusky at the end of September. We have not practiced yet in about a month. He's been doing football, but starting next week, we'll be able to get at least 2, maybe 3 full practices in before we get out to compete in that tournament. So that'll be fun. Looking forward to his first like out of the state kind of bigger competition, just to kind of see how it goes, So that'll be exciting. And then, yeah, let's just comment on the man himself, Stephen Neal. This is recent enough. Most people know about Stephen Neal. The Cal State Bakersfield. Well, again, most people, if you're like, I don't know, if you're listening to this, you probably know what the hell you're talking or what I'm talking about with Stephen Neal.
Yeah.
New England Patriots offensive lineman, was a Super Bowl champion with them. Undrafted free agent in 2001, won 3 Super Bowl rings with the team. But yeah, was a world champion in freestyle wrestling, 2-time NCAA champion wrestler for Cal State Bakersfield. I got my Roadrunner right here in my. Actually, I should point these out because I always liked these. They're just like fake cauliflower ears.
Oh, I remember those.
Just throw them on and look like you're gnarly, even though you're not. But yeah, so shout out to them. And then yeah, he's an absolute badass. If you don't know him, Wikipedia him, and then watch clips of him. And again, it's not like, I mean, this was another kind of untalked about era of United States heavyweights, because we had him as the champion. We had Kerry McCoy, was one of the best in the world at that time. Gosh, I know I'm blanking on somebody else who right after that went to the Olympics. Oh my gosh. All right, allow me a moment to look this up because I know he won the world championship in 99. 2000 was the Olympics. God, I'm completely blanking at who went to the Olympics that year. Clearly, it wasn't him. I'm gonna
I
look
can't
that up
remember
quick.
either.
It's gonna kill me.
All good. You look that up, and we'll start talking about RAF while you look that up because I'm sure you're gonna get it as we're going.
I'm gonna be so mad. I've got it right here. Hold on a second. Son of a bitch. Never mind. You keep going. Keep going. I'll jump in.
Keep going. We're gonna dig in. We're gonna start talking about RAF. I'm sure you'll catch up here at some point. Let's talk RAF. And before we talk about RAF respectively, the atmosphere, everything that to do with RAF, I kind of want to throw this out there. We are allowed to have nice things in wrestling, guys. And by that, I mean multiple nice things. And I get it. Everything is going to get scrutiny. We're certainly going to scrutinize RAF, but we're not sour grapes about things. It seemed like a day had passed and we already had the voices of reason in Nomad, who I wish had a voice of reason of his own, coming out and saying whatever he was saying about RAF, which was.
I thought you were saying he was a voice of reason. I was very concerned with the direction of this conversation.
No. Voices of reason is in quotes in that regard.
Oh, okay.
Where
Got it.
I've had I've worked with Nomad, so in every conversation, he normally attempts to be the voice of reason in some regard. When in actuality, it's like you can just chill here, right?
It was Kerry McCoy. My apologies to Kerry McCoy.
Yeah, he was.
There you go.
Sydney. Yeah.
You know what I was thinking? I was thinking 2004 when we had.
Cormier,
it was also Kerry McCoy.
Yeah. Cormier was the light heavyweight and Kerry was heavy.
Yep.
Yeah. All right. Kerry McCoy. Also
pretty badass team. But no, like Nomad, he came out kind of, I guess, against RAF in the early ongoing, saying how he felt like it was going to fail and this, that, and whatever. And then it was like he needed to find something wrong with RAF. And not to say that you had to like look very far. There were certainly things that were not correct. But trying to throw a dagger at the fact that Holly Holm was the alternate in that regard, and whether it was scripted or this or that, like, you understand that they went the UFC route with this, where there was an alternate for multiple weights.
Yes, there was.
Seth Gross was there. He did not wrestle, right? Like, there were multiple alternates at these weight classes. They used Holly Holm because I don't think they thought that the NCAA wasn't going to allow her to wrestle. But they knew it was a chance, right? So I couldn't stand that. And I also couldn't stand the fact that whether it was Drew Blogs tweeting about there's no pylons in this or whatever else, like, I don't understand why you need to take a shot at some other league that's doing something completely different just to ramp up the one that you're part of. So to me, that was bullshit. And I didn't like that Claw was also trying to throw shade, and I guess it was in response to Willie throwing shade earlier on. Like, it's just, it's such a pissing contest, guys. Like, knock it the hell off. Like, for what reason do we like
just fucking grow up?
Yeah,
let's
let's
be big kids.
We can be adults about this. Like, not to compare, not to say that these things are this big, but Nike and Adidas can coexist. These things can coexist without shitting on each other every single time something happens. Now, they certainly do it sometimes.
Shout out to our sponsor though Adidas is better.
Yes. We love our Adidas wrestling shoes. We certainly do.
Promo code QP25.
Exactly. But we don't need to hurl bullshit back and forth whenever somebody has an event and it works well. Just because you don't think something is going to work doesn't mean you need to shit all over it. But I get it. We're in the era of Twitter fingers are very heavy. and everybody thinks that they're 6'7", 395 pounds, and like they can beat everybody up, and like they can talk as much shit as they want. So it's just stupid, guys. Allow this shit to exist. It's opportunity for our wrestlers to have. You know who didn't have opportunities on this level? A lot of guys in the past. Now our wrestlers have multiple opportunities to continue to compete and make money. You should applaud that. Scrutinize it, yes. Try and make it better, certainly. But to try and shit on every single thing that everybody else is doing and not in a way of trying to elevate everything in a sport where you want respect is insane to me. And I say all that because I thought that RAF went very well. I thought that the production looked good. I thought, you know, the rules worked out. I thought it went very well. So I'm gonna pass it on over to you guys. What were your just initial thoughts, right? Like we'll dig into whichever thing you guys kind of stood out to you, and then we will scrutinize a little bit and say where things could be better, but we're not going to shit on it and say it's going to fail because we don't want it to actually succeed. So Claunch, on to you. What were some of the things you liked about it?
One thing I wanted to comment on fast, though, is just around the whole idea of Twitter fingers being heavy and all that stuff, which I agree. But you know what else people generally with a brain agree with? Skip Bayless is a fucking idiot. And we don't need Skip Baylesses in this sport. We don't need people jumping in there being like, oh, see, I thought this was going to suck because of this, this, and this. It's like, you're not helping. You're not helping. You're generally annoying, and we don't want you here. All right? Talking about Skip mostly, right? So anyway, so as far as RAF went, I mean, there's a lot of things that have gone wrong with different events in general. Like this was fun to watch, you know? I mean, there's some things that were, if you're really looking to scrutinize, you could be like, oh, see, I knew how this match was going to turn out, or I knew how this match was going to turn out. Good job putting, those guys up against those young guys. But at the same time, it was fun. It was fun seeing them out there. I'm glad we went out there and got it. We got to see that moment where everybody thought that Austin Gomez was going to launch him, and Lance was like, no.
As we predicted, we said Austin Gomez was going to try and launch him.
And he got in position to do it. And more power to Lance. Didn't happen to him.
In fairness, I'd run away like that too if I were in that situation.
Dude, in fairness, like credit to Lance. Like I've been making fun of him in this, but like he went out there and gave it his all against a guy who right now has looked world class. So that's a scary, thing to do against a guy of that level. But
he didn't even break a hip, so that's good.
Right. I mean, like
as us old guys tend to do.
We do. My brother-in-law broke his wrist playing golf this weekend. Like
must suck at golf.
He slipped and fell, and I know.
Not even swinging a club. He slipped and fell.
I feel bad even mentioning that now, but I did. So sorry, James. I love you, brother. You're good.
One too many visits to the cart girl.
Happens. But first hole. Just anyway. Old guys get hurt a lot, and he didn't that we're aware of. But no, it was a good event. It was a great event. We still had upsets. We still had surprises. It was good competition. It was fun as far as like the flow. Like it went well. So I'm very much excited and looking forward to the next events, and I'm looking forward to the other events too. Like that one went well. It should give you. You shouldn't be looking at the other events coming up and being like, all right, now I'm going to scrutinize this with a tighter microscope there and everything. It's like, no, you actually like just be excited about what that's going to bring. It might be different. It's going to have different rules. It's going to have different scoring, but let's go into it with an open mind and a level of excitement.
Yeah. Austin?
Yeah, like we talked about last week, this was the first one, so how many times are events the first time the best version of themselves, right? It's just going to keep getting better. It's going to keep improving itself. They're going to get better cards and better production, better everything. But overall, I think it was a good first go ahead. I do like the belts. I think that's a interesting wrinkle because it kind of makes people say, even watching Willie on his podcast yesterday or today saying multiple people reach out to him saying that they want that belt, so I think that adds a little competitive nature, like a UFC-ish kind of vibe where it's like, hey, that's my belt. I'm the best. I'm going to get you a next card. It's just the timing of it too, with classes just kind of starting. You didn't get to see many college guys. There were some issues with compliance for someone like Candy Blades. That's why she couldn't wrestle. So maybe something to avoid in the future there. But going back, I thought it was a great event. I think we're going to see, as these things go on, we're going to see better cards and higher quality wrestlers. Even though this was pretty damn high quality, you got a couple world team members, world team medals going on
Olympic
here. So
champ.
it was good stuff. And you got to give props to Holly Holm stepping up
Yeah,
last
for
minute
real.
and filling in. Wrestling is not even her background, but she said anytime, anywhere, I want some of this, and she competed pretty damn hard, man. It was a 9-7 loss there to a legit wrestler. It
She went
shows
after it too.
Mhm.
she came in and she wasn't scared, and just kind of shows you the competitor that Holly Holm is, and you know, she's awesome. Love her stepping in.
Yeah.
Real quick,
Robbie?
just on that too, the attention, like I don't follow Holly Holm on anything. And I've seen her stuff pop up all the time now, getting
Mhm.
attention to the sport, being a name that's out there and has been a competitor. Very helpful and appreciated.
Yeah. Robbie?
I think my biggest takeaway was the production value was incredible. The camera work, the stream was great. There's no lag, but I mean that's you have an infrastructure, and we questioned going with Fox just because that's kind of a weird fit. It's not a
Fox
sports.
Nation in this case, not
Yeah,
so much
Fox
Fox
Nation. Yeah,
Sports. Yeah.
it's not a sports streaming network, so it's kind of the placement was weird. I still kind of weird to me. But the infrastructure that comes with that and the money and investment that's already made into what you need to have a successful stream is already there. So they're not reinventing the wheel. They're going with a provider that already has those things, so they can just up the production value immediately. And you saw that, like that was the thing that stood out the most to me. Um, I mean, there's definitely things we can nitpick. Like I think it went too long. Like 3.5 hours is a little much. I think that tone down the videos and entrance time, things like that. But that's all things you learn as you go through doing events and kind of fine tuning it. Um, but overall, I think it was a success. I mean, it seemed there was good wrestling. I think that's the biggest takeaway is that there were some good matches that we got to see that we otherwise wouldn't have seen, and wrestlers got paid to wrestle. So, I mean, you got to be happy about that. And I think it only gets better moving forward, so long as they're willing to listen to feedback and adjust.
Yeah, and I feel like I feel like they honestly are. Even though, with us knowing the people that are involved of Willie and Izzy, these two are pretty stubborn folks, right? They're pretty forthright in what they know is what they know. However, you know, Eric Bischoff has been at the top of sports for a very long time, and he knows how to put together a production. And I think that really showed, honestly, with how they did the entrances. Even though things were, I agree, Robbie, were too long in that sense. I feel like for the first one, I'd rather you give me everything and then learn how to cut down to make it more efficient.
Agreed.
Cut down on the videos, cut down on the entrances, but it had a great atmosphere, it had fanfare. They had a number of celebrities there. I mean, hell, there was even porn stars there from what I've seen posted on social media, right?
Yeah,
I had
I can
people
do
that
without
were
that, but that's
it is what it is, right? But like the fact that they had this wide array of people that were there and wanted to be there and were
So
posting
many
about it.
jokes. So
So
many
many
jokes.
I get it. But there's a wide array of people that were there that were posting about it, and putting wrestling at the forefront on their social media accounts is huge, right? And that was the thing that stood out to me, was that you had so many people from so many different walks of life that were there to see freestyle wrestling. Rules maybe a little different, right? In the case of the periods and stuff, and the scoring a little bit different. I mean, there were no ties, so it didn't really come into play, but it was a good show that a lot of people from a lot of different walks of life showed up to come and watch, and not just come and watch, but also promote and post about, which is great for the sport. And I feel like it put wrestling in front of a lot of people that wouldn't normally be watching it. On top of that, there were commercials for this during NCAA football games over the weekend, where we were sitting and watching a game, and all of a sudden there was an RAF commercial, which was great, and that's what you want. You want big time promotion, and I feel like from where we used to be of let's try and catch the NCAA finals on ESPN to big, huge productions putting together cards of our wrestlers to continue to make money and compete, I think it's awesome. On the Holly Holm piece, like, even though she was an alternate, she stepped in last minute and it was a surprise, whatever else. I honestly kind of feel like if we had one surprise matchup at these things, it might drive a little bit more marketing for it, right? Where you show up for the 9 matches you know about, and then there's a 10th match that you don't know about, right? Like some sort of surprise where it's not a gimmick. I don't think I would want to see Tito Ortiz wrestle Chael Sonnen again.
No interest in that.
Like
Not
no,
even a little bit.
not very interested in that.
Or a tag team.
Yeah.
God damn it.
Tag team, who knows, might not be out of the cards just yet. But no,
let's
I
get
think
Dan Gable and Lee Kemp while we're at it. I mean,
Yeah,
Jesus
right.
Christ, how fucking old do these guys need to be?
Dan Gable is what, like 75, something like that.
Wade Chalice is available. We could throw him out there.
Get him in there. Get him in there. But no, I thought it was a good card. I thought the production was great. The crowd looked great. The ambiance of it looked great. On things I didn't like, I didn't think that the commentary was done very well. And I think we could all see that was going to happen from start because you had people that weren't used to doing commentary together. Part of doing commentary is truly having a rapport with the person you're doing commentary with and having a cadence and truly knowing how to do it. And it's not easy to bring specifically three guys together to do it, let alone 2. Like, it's not easy to do.
Especially when they're big personalities too. And
yes.
That becomes too much of a focus rather than the wrestling.
Yeah. So I feel like that was where they could have definitely improved. I want Robbie and Kevin to jump in here because I know Austin said.
Are we gonna tag team?
Yes. Yeah. On on the belts angle of it, Robbie specifically, what did you think of the belts? And do you feel like this is something that does drive more competition?
I don't like it. In so much as if you're gonna have weight classes where you're having events to have a champion of a weight class, then that needs to be the belt. Not every single match is a belt match. And I don't know how I feel about the inaugural event being, okay, now you're the champ because you won the only match. Like, I think you got to build to that. I like the idea of having it as a championship belt, like having a weight class belt. I don't like the idea of it just being for every single match win, you get a giant shiny belt.
Yeah. Claunch?
I mean, I loved the idea on the front end. It was a little surprising to be like, oh, I guess we're just doing world champions now. But that's fine. It's, you know what? There's different leagues for different sports and why not, right? Why not at least just throw it out there and get it started? I like the
But it's
idea.
not youth league. We shouldn't have trophies for everybody, right?
But
Isn't that how we do this?
But they didn't have trophies for everybody. I mean, you have to go out there and win it. You know, the losers didn't get trophies. They didn't get like a second place belt, you know,
Just an ugly singlet.
Just an ugly singlet. But like, here's the thing, like, I like the idea of this building into a thing, right? Let's build this idea up. There's obviously enough people who were interested in a belt. I want there to be a media belt. I tweeted about it and I'm not bullshitting. I've been saying this for years and like, I'm in. I'll make
maybe
weight.
After my rant, they'll actually think about doing it.
Look, if there's something to get my fat ass into shape, that's it. I mean, I'll throw down.
I'm ready to go. Let's get out there. So media belts would be fun. I want one. I don't know how many people would actually tune in. You know, we'd have to figure out a new streaming service.
Full on undercard. Full on.
Yeah, full on undercard for sure. I'll take an undercard spot. But like, you can build this up. You can have tournaments, right? Where instead of like maybe a full RAF event, and or maybe not doing them every month, but every 2 months for like the big ones, and then you have actually some contender matches here and there too. I like the idea of putting something like that together. I think if there's genuinely enough interest, that's kind of what this would turn into. Now, ultimately, the other thing you have to consider, though, is with so many competing entities trying to do an event like this, the roster spots are going to, you're missing out on talent. So I don't know. That'll have to sort itself out at some point, but I'm here to be positive, and I like that there's belts because they hold
Yeah,
your pants up.
especially with, you talk about roster spots. From what I'm hearing, if you're signed to RAF, you can't compete in any other one, right? They want
I
you
would
to
think.
be specifically just an RAF wrestler. Um,
But the
and,
other
and
two leagues are sharing wrestlers. Like
yes, the others
Brian
are.
Courtney's in both.
Yeah. So I'm all for having more opportunity and things like that. And I agree with the three of you. I know Austin had chimed in about the belts initially. I think that having the belts is very good. You could ultimately see that they are trying to pick and choose some of the best things from the leagues that already exist and bring them into wrestling, from the WWE style intros to the belts, and calling it welterweight just like they would in UFC and things like that, and having these weight classes um, that aren't really traditional weight classes that we have in freestyle or folk style, like having these different weight classes where it's more of like a catch weight, so that guys and girls aren't cutting all the way down to their normal weight classes, I think is great. um so yeah, I think in that regard, it seeing that they are cherry picking some of the best things from these other leagues that we are already familiar with, and we already know about a belt system, we already know about these big time entrances and these big venues, and having the fanfare and big time productions. All of those are things that we are now used to, and we're used to them, one, in part because Flow Wrestling has grown into what it is, right? Flow was not doing these huge productions. I can remember the first Who's Number One I was part of in 2014, and then the last one that I was a part of in what, 2021 or 2020. Um, it's night and day difference, right? The improvements are there. And then you also look at how the NCAA tournament is done. And then you also look at how the UFC does things, right? As we said, the people that are creating RAF have been a part of these, some of the biggest leagues of, WWE, and then the UFC, with Izzy having Holly Holm and some of the other fighters that he has coached. So I love the fact that they are trying to bring in these things that are to kind of level that playing field of production and what we're used to seeing, and bringing it into wrestling. So I think that's pretty awesome.
Yeah, just to kind of add on to that point too, like the goal isn't to get us wrestling fans to watch, it's to kind of bring in more fans and sustain them, right? You
That's a
see,
great point.
the average couch fan sees a belt and they're interested already, or they see two guys going for a championship, they're interested. It's not just, oh, here's a wrestling card with matches. Good luck following the rules or whatever. It's kind of to draw those people in, and maybe they like it, hopefully like it, and they stick around and come to the next one. So that's just kind of my thought on that.
Yeah, and it comes down to even the having 3 2-minute periods, which is reminiscent of other, like, boxing or MMA, right? There's either 3 rounds or there's 5 rounds for championship. I don't see them going 5 rounds in this ultimately, but I do
That'd be
think
awesome though.
that would be
I
pretty cool.
support that.
I would support bringing back the old Who's Number One rule of turning off the clock when it's a tie score. I think that would be freaking awesome, and its first takedown wins, instead of first point scored if there was ever an overtime. But like, no, I think they did a really good job. I thought the production was great, and there are certain things that, as we said, like the commentary wasn't very good. But what other things did you guys saw? Austin, I'm going to come back to you. What was anything that you had seen, whether somebody had talked about it on Twitter that you were like, oh yeah, I didn't really like that, or something you saw while you were watching these matches that you were just like, or clips or anything else that kind of got pointed out to you that you were like, maybe I wasn't really a fan of that.
Um, yeah, I mean, negative wise, I didn't get to see a lot of the event. I just saw kind of clips and pieces. So, production wise, from what I saw, everything looked good. I kept hearing things about commentating, and maybe that's something we can touch on then. Just maybe, I don't know if it's another crew or just having a different system, the way that those guys kind of collaborate and go about it at the same time there. But that was probably the biggest negative, that at least that I saw from the clips and limited matches that I saw there. But again, it's the first one. If they stick with the same guys, I'm sure they'll come up with a system, work out those kinks. I mean, because like you guys might know too, if you do wrestling matches, you broadcast them play by play, whatever. Working with someone you never worked with before can be difficult because you don't kind of know the ebbs and flows of it, the give and take, right? So maybe it was
Especially if
just
they
some
don't
of
know the
that.
sport well too.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, bringing guys in that are big names may not always be the best solution, but again, it's the first one. Let them work out the kinks. If it goes a few and they still need improvement, let's get someone else in there. But yeah, that was probably the biggest negative that I saw and heard of from other people as well.
Yeah. Robbie?
I had a few takeaways that I thought that should be pretty relatively easy fixes. I didn't like the mat. I think the mat was very difficult to see the edge, at least on the television broadcast. Maybe it was better in person. But it being so dark and not really having a definitive line, I think that makes it more difficult, especially if you're new to the sport and you're trying to figure out what a push out is and where that boundary is. I think a little bit more clear on that instead of being so design centered, be more functional. Same thing kind of goes with the singlets. I think I mean, Willie hit on it. There was kind of a last minute run. And I mean, I like Dustin. Dustin Kaw was the owner of Takedown Sports, who's a NC State wrestler, he's two-time ACC champ. Good dude. I didn't like the singles at all. I didn't think they were a good design. I think they were too blocky. I mean, if you want visual appeal, I don't think that was the way to go. I'd love to consider like fight shorts and a compression top. I think, especially for casual viewers, that's something to consider instead of the singlet, which is so polarizing anyway. You know, anything we can do to draw in new people would be good. And then, I mean, we've already hit on it with the commentary. I think they went for having big names within the sport as the priority rather than trying to find the best broadcast team. And I think that hurt them in the long run. I would rather see successful broadcasters who have shown that they're good at it and have shown a history with wrestling. I mean, if you talk about guys like Mike Mock, I mean, throw him out there. He's great at commentary. You know, somebody who's active in the sport, who's a good wrestler, who's great at commentary, throw him out there. There's a lot of people. Trent does a great job too. But you have guys who are just bigger names, more within the fight community than the wrestling world, doing the commentary. And I think that wasn't the best way to go about it. And the same thing kind of went with Chael doing the mat side stuff. And like, I understand why they went that route, and they're trying to get the MMA crossover, and he's really popular in that world, and he's going to draw people in on that side. But no, wouldn't have been my first choice of who to go with. Better than Quint Kesnick, but he didn't ask about horses, so that's good.
Yeah. Or how fast is fast? That question always.
Fast is fast. Fast is very fast.
Yeah. That was one of my favorite Quint questions. Claunch.
I'm laughing at that stupid question. See how fast I can get away from this interview, Quint.
Yeah.
I mean, we're gonna do commentary piece, like just to comment on that. You know, I think you've seen with Monday Night Football for years and years and years, they were just rotating new people in there to try and get it right. You know, so sometimes it takes time, it takes effort, it takes chemistry.
Dennis Miller is not the answer here either.
Hey, let's give him a shot. Maybe he wants to. I think he might be decent, honestly. No, another name to throw out there that's been good and knows the sport and has done it. It's Kyvan Gadsden. He's fantastic.
Yeah, he does. He does a great job.
So, if we're looking for somebody who does take it seriously and is going to approach it with the right attitude and effort, I think he's a person to talk about too. Before I forget, I did want to shout out. I don't know how I don't think again, if people are listening to this, they've probably watched the event. They understand the results by now. But I think it's important to shout out NATO and Evan Wick, who were like the main dudes who got upsets. Like those were good wins from both of those guys. And we all picked Ramos in our previews, and I think we were split on Nolf and Wick. But yeah, still very, very much a shout out for them. As far as I don't know. I don't really know what else I want to approach or critique from this point forward. I think in general it was well enough. I would like to see, I guess realistically, the biggest critique I have is just more competitive matches. It was fun. They were ones where we just knew it wasn't going to be much,
Yeah, let's not have squash matches. Let's
right.
have real ones.
And I don't think we necessarily need to have fake pushing and shoving either. I think at the end, the Wyatt Hendrickson and Mason Paris piece, like it's fair to point out that like he's beaten a lot of dudes recently, had a really good match with Mason Paris recently, within the last 2 years or whatever. And that's a cool way to promote the next card. And I'm excited, assuming that happens on the card, for that to take place. But we don't need people, doesn't need to be more than it is. We all are adults here. Now, if they actually start pushing and shoving, like that'd be cool as shit. All right,
but not after a handshake
when they're both giggling about it.
Yeah, like if it's a snickering contest and you're pushing and shoving, that's a little different. Like I liked when Real Woods and Caldwell were getting after it. That looked like kind of more serious. And I know they were like fine with it after the fact, but it was like, I don't know, that looked like kind of spontaneous by Woods to do that. And I don't think Caldwell liked it. So
I think Caldwell would slap the shit out of anybody at any moment. I don't see that being the same with Hendricks or Paris, though. I don't think they quite have the same edge to them.
Also, if either one of those guys wanted to truly get to each other, there's nothing that any one of the people that were standing between them was going to do about it.
No.
Let's be serious. One of them just got done playing in the NFL. The other one is a giant human being who doesn't fit in aircrafts in the Air Force.
It's like the lifeguard at the Olympic pool. Like, sweet. Thanks for being here.
Yeah.
Does that guy get paid, or does he just get to be on TV?
I mean, you never know. Somebody might cramp up. They need saving, and the lifeguard is going to do it, not the other 40,000 Olympic swimmers in the pool with them.
Lifeguard will be the last one there, but he'll be there.
Yeah.
With the cold spray.
Yeah.
Oh man. Yes. So let's talk
That's
about
what we were missing. We need cold spray.
Willie said there was no cold spray allowed.
More cold spray.
Tweeted no cold spray allowed. Let's talk about the matches. And obviously there were some that were not competitive. I mean, Austin Gomez, Lance Palmer, Sarah Hildebrand beating Hernandez.
She didn't murder as much as I expected.
Yeah, I mean, it was 11-0, but it was like a very tame 11-0. Real Woods pinning Darian Caldwell.
It was a good match. I mean, it was back and forth for a little bit.
Yeah, I didn't think he would pin him, but it happened.
No.
Kyle Dake, I need to take back my "you're no longer Kid Dynamite" saying from last show. You showed a lot of Kid Dynamite, and
yeah, he was real explosive.
I feel like if that Kyle Dake shows up, we're in a different spot. Maybe I think it's a different match with him and Zahid, but like Zahid obviously also poses a completely different threat than Dean Hamady. So there is that. There's a size difference. There's a tactics difference, but like Kyle Dake's like explosiveness is always the reason why people were afraid to go in certain positions with him. And I think he showed that again. And then the other one, Wyatt Hendrickson and Elders, like 14-1. But then we had some close ones, right? We had some very close matches. Of those close matches, we have Yanni Bajrang, NATO versus Ramos, Matt Ramos, that is. Tony Ramos. I don't know. Do you think we can get Tony Ramos in on this? We'll certainly see. Evan Wick and Jason Nolf. And then we had the Rivera versus Holly Holm match we didn't expect. And then Bo Nickel and Jacob Cardenas. Of the close matches, which one, and maybe it wasn't the close one that you were most entertained by, but Claunch, what was the match that you were kind of the most glued to, the one that you truly wanted to see the result of?
I mean, really, it ended up being Wick and Nolf. Like, that match was so good, and you had Nolf storming this comeback, and I'm watching it knowing that I picked him to win, and I was like, oh shit, don't run out of gas. Don't run out of gas. Don't run out of gas. He's out of gas. He's completely out of gas, and it's over. So, and, hey, more power to him jumping in there. The fear of him showing up, not quite, whether it was the size or whether it was just the time off the mat or whatever it ended up really being, it was just he wasn't ready for that level of competition for that long. And just like we said, Wick has looked good. He's clearly ready to go. He's clearly in shape, and clearly really wanted that and got it done, man. So I was super pumped for him.
Yeah, Robbie.
Yeah, same thing. I mean, that Wick match was fantastic, and just seeing it going back and forth, and some of the really just high level stuff that we saw on both sides. The counters from both of them were amazing, and it was, I mean, the scrambles and the counters, but that was kind of the separation in the match, to me, and it was great to see how excited Wick was by the win, and you could tell that it was meaningful for him. And we've seen it from him recently. Like he seems to have made a breakthrough. He's in a really good spot. He's doing a lot of really good things, and I think this just kind of continues that trajectory for him. The Nickel Cardenas match was better than I expected. I think if that one had been 5 rounds, I think Cardenas may have brought it back. So that was a pretty good match. I would have liked to see Cardenas be a little bit more patient instead of rushing through some things, and I think that could have changed some of the scoring.
True. Austin.
Yeah, I agree with Robbie. I thought the Nickel Cardenas match was going to be reversed. I thought Cardenas kind of had the upper hand there with, just being competitive more recently and still training actively in wrestling. Bo was in that Penn State room, obviously, and shows you can still freaking wrestle pretty well. So, I was just expecting Cardenas to squeak that one out, but, props to Bo for putting on the line and going out there competing. The other one I was surprised at was Tomasello over Ramos. I just figured Ramos would have been there. And again, Tomasello, legend in the sport, been really, really good at Ohio State. Hasn't seen the huge success at the senior level. So I thought Ramos just kind of being more active, a little training, a little more regularly would have had that one. But, props to Tomasello. The dude still got it, man.
He just held center so well. And was controlling all the tie-ups. Too. Yeah, Ramos wasn't attacking, and it's like that's like the last thing you expect to see from him. But he couldn't find a position.
NATO is still a miniature brick shithouse. That dude
can't control his neck. He doesn't have a neck.
He's a freaking walking fire hydrant. Like, and I don't.
That's
blame Ramos
win. You can't change that.
Yeah, I don't blame Ramos for not shooting on him. Like, I wouldn't want to shoot on that either. Like, it's. He's tough. NATO's always been tough. And like you said, he didn't have the senior level success. And I feel like with us looking at, the activity of a lot of these guys, and it's where our picks really came from, of how much activity a lot of the wrestlers have had so far, or at least recently, outside of Sarah, who, let's face it, Sarah's just Sarah.
She's a freak.
The things that she has done against the highest level of competition will always be successful against literally anyone, right? It's made for when, and if she becomes a mom and her kid gets out of hand, that mom arm drag, and it's just before you know it, you're
lace him across the house,
and you're literally just launched, across the kitchen floor, right?
Fiving your kid,
right? Just right across the living, wondering if mom still got it, and she just arm drags you, go behind, and it's over. I feel like she will always be successful with those things. The nickel match, I was definitely surprised that Cardenas wasn't as decisive in some of his attacks too. I feel like if he was a little bit more decisive, it could have been a different match. But Nickel still competing at a very high level, and you wonder if you're hey, are you thinking about making a return to wrestling? Because Cardenas is certainly going to be one of those guys that's in the quarters, in the semis. From what we've seen, you don't see him having an early exit at like the U.S. Open or World Team Trials. So maybe Nickel does kind of think of a return there. Who knows? But the match for me was seeing how well Yanni performed since surgery. When you have somebody that has the surgery that he had, you're somebody's having surgery on his heart, like it's a little different than just getting like your shoulder scoped or getting one of his banged up elbows fixed, right? Like this is a little different. So seeing how he competed, even against a guy like Bajrang, who is suspended for a little bit, was still very interesting because you didn't know how it was going to affect him at all. And I thought Yanni looked really good, honestly. And I'm hopeful that the surgery that he did have continues to allow him to push as hard as he wants to go. And that was, I feel like, pretty apparent in that match that he was going a little bit harder than he normally would.
I feel like that match wasn't as close as the score would indicate. Like I don't think
Yeah.
it was ever in doubt. It was Yanni controlled it from the opening whistle, and it was just kind of his match. It just there wasn't a lot of points put up, but it was definitely his match.
Agreed. Anything else from the card or the overall event that stood out to you guys, either good, bad, or indifferent, before we get to our only other topic of the night, which is our fun question to end the show?
One other thing I did want to emphasize is just how lucky we are, and it's based off a point you'd made earlier, Holmes, that like literally NCAA finals was appointment television because it was on one time a year, and they were probably just going to skip one weight class entirely.
Mm-hmm.
Like I remember watching, I think it was 03, and it was the 149. I think Eric Larkin won it that year, and it was like, hey, welcome back from commercial. Heads up. We're at 157 now. A match happened, and we're not showing any of it. And here was the winner. Anyway, here's Ryan Bertine and Tirapelli.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And that's what I think that's what like pisses me off the most is like I get it. We want things to be at like such a high level, and we're spoiled in that regard where we are used to things being at a high level. And like I said, I guess kind of shout out to Flow on that level because they've done as much as people say that they're unreliable, they're this, they're that. I'll be the first one to tell you there have certainly been times where things go belly up. I was at the Penn State versus Oklahoma State match. I was there. I watched the data. I watched the chart continue to climb and see how many people were on the damn site that night. So yes,
I just remember cursing a lot. That's what I remember.
I remember doing the same from inside the arena. But like we have had
Facebook Live.
Yeah. Yep. We have had a very good level of high level wrestling, I should say, to be a little bit redundant in that statement. The production has been done very well. We've gotten even better wrestling over these years, better commentary, better storytelling. Like I said, Flow has raised the bar because we didn't have stuff like that. We had websites with rankings and written stories. And now we have even more
or obituaries.
Yeah, that too. And even
Autopsies would be wild.
That'd be insane. That would be absolutely
very different site. Very different
insane.
site.
Wow.
Different site. And not to continue like with the rant, but with what Kevin said, like it is awesome that we do get so many different platforms to watch wrestling on these days. And I guess that's just what like pisses me off is that we want to sling mud at the guy next to us because we don't think that his idea is cool or that it won't catch on or that somebody won't like it. If it doesn't catch on, it doesn't catch on, but it's opportunity to grow the sport of wrestling maybe in a different direction than you had ever thought of. So like I said, Nomad trying to be the voice of reason when it comes to the Holly Holm match, Drew Blogs talking about no pylons and whatever else, like just chill. Not just chill out, honestly.
You can be supportive of your own venture without being a dick about everybody else's. Just
Exactly.
there's room for everybody to be in this and to make an opportunity for multiple leagues to be successful. It doesn't have to be a pissing contest. Just be supportive of each other and don't be a prick about things. It's not complicated.
It's really not. I don't think we've ever shit on anybody else's shows or content to elevate ours, and I don't think we'll ever do that unless you
I've got a
come for
list
us.
too, if you
And
want.
unless you come for us, and all gloves are off, or on in that sense.
Media
Yeah,
belt. Set it up.
media belt. Bring it up. Bring it. Bring it. I'll weigh in tomorrow. But all right, that's RAF. Let's get to our fun topic. The everything was, like you said, really cool at RAF, and it's also now football season. And in a lot of these football stadiums, college football stadiums, you're allowed to serve beer now, which is pretty awesome. Makes things a little bit rowdier, but you're allowed to serve beer in a lot of these college stadiums. So in that same vein, we decided to have a little fun and say which couple of coaches, whether they're head coaches, assistant coaches, volunteer assistants, whatever they are, even a director of ops, right? Somebody part of a program or a staff that you would like to sit down and have a beer with. And I'm gonna start with Austin. I'm gonna let Claunch, as always, back clean up because we know that he brings a different vibe to things. So Claunch going back clean up. So Austin, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think pretty obvious one would probably be Tom and or Terry Brands if that's a package deal, just because you probably get some nice stories out of them, get a few in them, loosen them up, and boom, they're telling you about how they probably lost 20 pounds in a night to make weight and they were running miles and miles and miles, whatever stories they would have. And, we've
I
seen the
think that is a
documentary on them.
package deal. I think that it's got to be a package deal.
Yeah, that has to be right. Cause yeah, that would be fun. Secondly, I was thinking, again, maybe a little boring, but probably David Taylor. And I have twofold reasons for that. One,
You have to drink smoothies with him, I think. That's the rules.
hey, you could booze those things up pretty nicely.
Austin's like, I've been in college. We can get booze in
Yeah,
anything.
you can put booze in anything, and call it healthy. But yeah, just to get his vibe on Oklahoma State, but mainly I'd want to get down and dirty on what's Kale really like. What's the Penn State culture really really like? Now that he's been there, he's out of it now. I'm sure he might have some dirt to talk, and that could get interesting. And third, I think I'd probably go with Scott Green just because he's very intellectual and you'd probably definitely learn some stuff from him. And I think that would be more of a high intelligence conversation if I have
Highbrow
any of that.
conversation.
Yeah, he's probably talking down to me a lot, but I'd like to up my intelligence level, talk to him
I
over
feel
a
like
beer.
it'd have to be early in the night though, because as it goes on, I feel like he'd be correcting my grammar, and it's
Yeah, that's not
wouldn't
good.
vibe right.
Can't have that. Yeah. Or set the rules right away. Say, hey, no correcting my grammar. I'm going to talk. Just let me be me.
Scott Green's a good time. I had breakfast with him once at Sweet Treats in Wilkes-Barre. It's an awesome little breakfast spot. So if anybody's ever covering a sem duel, go to Sweet Treats. The breakfast special, I believe, is probably $2 now. It used to be $1.50 back in the day. Never steer you wrong. Robbie, on to you.
So, quick story first about how I actually got involved in wrestling in Virginia. So I moved out here after college. I worked at a wilderness school, so I lived in the woods for 5 days a week and only had 48 hours off a week. So most of those 48 hours were spent being very intoxicated, as you do in your early 20s. But one day I walked into a bar in Farmville, Virginia, home of Longwood University, and there was just a bunch of meathead wrestlers with fucked up ears. And mind you, this college doesn't have a program anymore. They canceled they closed their program in the early 2000s. So I was like, why are all these wrestlers here? And ended up talking to them, and it's because Steve Martin used to host his Granby camps at Hampton Sydney, which is just 10 miles up the road. So that is actually how I met John Cerritos and Matt Storniolo. So I've had beers with them very early on, and that's how I actually eased my way into wrestling in making connections in Virginia with that. So that was kind of fun. Steve Martin is a very interesting one to have a drink with. If you think he's like angry and waddles around when he's sober, wait till you see him when he's drunk. It's good times, good times. The other story is that the last two times that Virginia Tech has beat NC State in Blacksburg in their home duel, so this year and then 2 years ago, the response from Tony Robbie immediately after each duel was, let's go to PK's and get a beer. So that's what they did. And he invited fans out. He invited supporters of the program to come grab a beer with him at PK's, which is just a bar in town. So that was pretty cool. Tony's a good one to grab a beer with. But if I were choosing anyone, I think Dan Gable would be good because he's got his own beer. So I'd like to hear some stories from him. The beer's decent too. And I had another one. Who was it? Oh, come back to me. I had a good one. And now I forgot.
All right, I'll go.
Come back to me. I'll think about that one.
I'll go. So yeah, it's funny because for anyone that has been at NCAAs, you realize that you've probably had a beer with a good amount of coaches, or at least like traveled a little bit. In the same vein with Robbie, of like coaches that have been like really fun to like sit and just talk to when there's no cameras or anything. Like I always have fun talking to Goodale all the time. Like that man is hilarious. He's so fun to be around. So always a good time talking with him. I gave a shout out to Nate Angle. He's like family to me, as well as, Jamil Kelly, Cliff Retwell, those guys, always fun. Can't wait to see them in a couple weeks when I'm at Elite Eight. Make sure you guys tune into that. Me and my crew will be on commentary for that on September 20th, 21st. But for me, the coaches, or I guess the guys in wrestling, so to speak, that I would love to go and sit and have a drink with. The first one is Jordan Burroughs. And I say that because I've never seen him drink. Not once have I ever seen
Only
him
yogurt.
sip anything. So I would love to sit and, we've obviously had like very good conversations. But I've never seen Jordan Burroughs have a sip of alcohol. So I think I would more so just want to experience that more than actual stories or anything, because he's a pretty candid person when him and I are, not around a whole bunch of other people and people want to hear the BS, I guess. The other one for me is Kevin Jackson. KJ also always a good time. And I think I would want to have him and Nate Carr Sr. together at the same time. If we're going package deals like Tom and Terry, I'd want Nate Carr and Kevin Jackson as well. The last guy is Adam Hall. And mostly because I've been able to have fun and hang out with Pat Papalizio after Gwiz made the world team, and it was at Lehigh. We're in my hometown, so we obviously went to places that I was familiar with, and we were able to hang out and everything. He's a great time, but I don't think that
To see
Adam
Pat
Hall,
cut loose is pretty awesome.
he's
Doesn't
awesome.
happen very often.
He's awesome. But I don't think that Adam Hall was there. And every time I'm around Adam, like if he's dressed up, shirt, tie, everything, he's always just like perfect, right? Like very
Tightest
buttoned up,
pants in the world.
very buttoned up guy, very awesome guy. I'd want to see him kind of have a little bit of fun. So I think Adam Hall is the last guy that I would have on my list. Robbie, did you remember the guy you were thinking?
If we can go back to conspiracy theories, I think Teague Moore and Mark Schultz. That'd be an interesting time. But no, I can't remember what I thought. It'll come back to me. But
All right.
that would be entertaining.
Well, speaking of entertaining, we're going to pass the mic over here to the court jester, Kevin Claunch, and see what he's got.
Well, the right answer is Mark Branch. First and foremost,
that is a great answer.
That's the only answer to this question. The 1A,
Whilst on horseback.
Yeah,
I honestly think that you came up with this question when we were talking about Mark Branch.
I think I did. I freaking did. I also, all right, I want to put something out there just to all right, let me say this quick. I tried to put a list. I have a lot of names written down, and I tried to put a list of names. And this is, I'm not probably going to say them all because it gets weird with some of this, but like,
Claunch said, screw a beer, go get the keg, or there's 30 racks are live.
Let's have a party, guys. Yeah. So I also wanted to shout out Steve Borgia from Franklin and Marshall. Had a great
Not till he
time.
sends me a damn shirt.
Oh, dude, I had so much fun talking with him and Earl at NCAA's a couple years ago. That was fantastic. He was super funny.
Borgia's a good dude.
Kellen Russell and Sean Bormet. Let me rephrase this. I've drank beers while at a social with them, so I don't recall they were drinking. So that was cool. Shout out Luke Smith, Cal State Bakersfield, Fire Up Chips. Had a couple beers with him. Nick Simmons made fun of my mustache at NCAA's and said I couldn't hang out with him while I had it. So
was that when we were in Kansas City?
It was in Kansas City, yeah.
We did see Nick Simmons that night.
Yes. I did have to leave. Royce Alger, if we're going like old school, like we'll sing together.
Do not recommend.
CJ Brucky and Reese Humphrey as a combo. That is a fun combination. Those two guys have a lot of fun together. I once saw, I think it was Reese on CJ's back, and they were ordering drinks from some bar, and that probably also Kansas City.
That checks out.
Going back again, let's go Zeke Jones and John Smith. I feel like those are two, like, this is.
Oh, John Smith. That's what it was.
Yeah. That's what it was.
Hang out in Vest and drink a beer with John Smith.
Yeah, and Zeke Jones, underrated. Zeke Jones would be a great time to hang out with, because you'd be like, Zeke, what's up with giving the refs all that shit? And he'd be like, whatever. It's my job, man. What do you expect me to do? Sit there and my hands in my pockets? Joel Greenlee and Cody Walters from Ohio. I think that'd be a fun combination. The Junkyard
But only
Dog.
if you had a mustache.
Yes, I would have to have a mustache for that meeting.
Prerequisite.
Jay Jaggers as well. I remember he said that I was fairly reasonable, I think, with my coverage of Ohio State, and I was like, I'll take that. Also, in all honesty, every conversation I've had with Jay Jaggers has been so enlightening and super fun as far as wrestling goes. So, and shout out to Ryan Ludwig as well. I imagine that would be fun.
Yeah.
We talk about bicep curls.
Sean Gray.
Yeah, Sean, I was gonna say Sean Gray. You'd have
Sean can join us too.
Be the same with Sean Gray. I feel like the spin we probably could have put on this, and maybe we come back around to it, is the matchups. So the matches of guys, right? So like guys that wrestled each other that you would like to sit down with and have a beer with and talk about their match with them.
Oh yeah.
So maybe at some point
it turns into a fight. That'd be fun.
Yeah, maybe at some point we come back around and we do that. Like an old school matchup of guys who you would like to have conversations with and allow them to discuss the match and what they were thinking. So I think that'd be really,
and Metcalf.
I was thinking it. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that would be a good one for sure.
Bubba and DT. That'd be good.
Jesus. Wow. Yeah. That'd be something. That was my first NCAAs. That was insane.
That was my first one on the floor. That was a good one.
Yeah, that was a good time. Well, gentlemen, I think we've talked about RAF enough. We have shared beers with a number of coaches. I think Claunch nailed it with Mark Branch as well as Joel Greenlee. I think those guys are pretty awesome. So yeah, I think we'll come back to our normally scheduled episodes next week. The holiday obviously allows us to push for a day. Everybody needed a little bit of a break anyway. We gave you a day, and we'll be back, obviously, like I said, next week. So that's a wrap for episode 16 of the Quad Pod. Shout out once again to our sponsors, Poseidon Strength and to Adidas Wrestling. Also, shout out to the strength coach, what's his name? Kyle Eckert, I believe, at WCAP, who just touch base with Poseidon Strength, and I believe is going to be picking up some cool equipment from Poseidon Strength. So it works, guys. Like if you do tell them you have spoken to us or using our discount codes, they take care of you very, very well. So yeah, they've also, I believe, just installed one of their pieces of equipment at Penn State, and so you'll see some content from there coming whenever Penn State approves that. But yeah, shout out to our sponsors; they're great guys. No matter
The
if you're
day
working,
before season starts.
yeah, maybe. I think that's kind of the time frame there, right? But no, our sponsors are great people. Whether you're working with Adidas Wrestling or Poseidon Strength, make sure you're using those discount codes. We appreciate everybody liking, sharing, subscribing, and commenting to be part of the conversation. It's always good talking with these gentlemen, and we always love the comments, whether it's scrutiny or just joining in on the fun. As always, make sure you're adding the comments of our fun question. If there's some wrestlers or wrestling coaches that you're like, yeah, I would love to have a beer with that guy or that girl or whatever else, certainly throw that into the comments. Also, let us know what you guys liked about RAF, whether there's something that kind of stuck out to you, or maybe we're crazy and it's something that we didn't like that you did. So chime in. But as always, we appreciate you watching and listening to the Quad Pod, and we'll see you again next week. Peace.